Venice, Florida. Is it the new Sarasota? In this video, I'm going to cover how Venice has changed, how Sarasota has changed, and how a lot of people are starting to view Venice as possibly the more desirable option. For some people, that might have always been the case, but you're starting to get some people that used to think Sarasota would be where it's at to now saying Venice is where they want to be. And some people that have lived in Sarasota and loved it saying, Venice actually is starting to look a little more appealing. So I want to talk about why that's become a thing, but on top of that, talk about the way both cities have changed and which is right for you. And if you are looking to buy or sell a home in either of these areas, we've helped a lot of people do exactly that. Get a hold of our team, 941-221-1897. We can help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls as far as living in the wrong area, picking the wrong house, and just finding the place that's the right match for you and shortcutting the process big time. Because let me tell you, it can be hard to find everything you're looking for online, and some things just aren't even out there. Okay, so right now I'm actually on Legacy Trail, which is pretty cool because it connects basically Venice all the way up to the north part of Sarasota. And over here you can see part of the intracoastal, well, yeah, you can there see the intracoastal waterway. Maybe you'll see some boats going through, but as we get onto this trail, it's gonna get a little more wooded and different kinds of looks throughout. And that's one of the most exciting things about both of the areas is they've incorporated a lot of parks and nature throughout the cities. Now, one of the things that has really changed, and it's really interesting to hear a lot of people say this, is they're saying basically Venice now is how Sarasota was like 20, 30, 40 years ago. Some even will say like 10 years ago. Got a similar vibe and size and hustle and bustle that Sarasota had then, which was on the lower end of that side of things in terms of like, the amount of traffic and people in the area. Now, to put things into perspective, Sarasota, don't get me wrong, it's a busy-ish area, but it is not what I would call a big city. It's not like your New York. It's not like a Miami. It's not like a Los Angeles. That being said, it's starting to get some more big city feels to it, and that's what started to draw a lot of people's attention to Venice. Plus the fact that Venice has started to grow and become a little bit of a bigger city. And when I say that, I use that very loosely in very loose quotes, just in the fact that you're starting to get more, stores and big box stores, things coming to the area. You're starting to get a little bit bigger population, more amenities, more infrastructure coming into the area, and all those sorts of things. And it's just become, more of a hot spot. It's got on more people's radars. So because of all that, you're starting to see Venice become a little bit more desirable for two reasons, really. One, it's got a bigger, so there's more going on, and it's got on more people's radar. But two, it's a little bit less hustle and bustle when you compare it to Sarasota. So for a lot of people, they like the way Sarasota was 20, 30, 40 years ago, and Venice is kind of that now. And so now Venice is kind of filling that void. And just to show you a little bit of the waterway over here, some of the sights and sounds as we go along this trail. But continuing on with why Venice has become so desirable, and a lot of people are looking at it as an alternative or maybe even the better choice between Sarasota and Venice, is the price points. So you're getting a lot of the same things that you would want out of Sarasota in Venice. Now, there's also a lot of things that you won't get that I'll get into in a second, but the price points are going to be quite a bit lower while still getting beach access. And that's one of the biggest things. I mean, as Sarasota has grown, we've started to see it stretch north and east, and then you start getting Lakewood Ranch and all the new communities that are building east of 75, which is great because you can still get pretty quick access to downtown Sarasota, a lot of shopping, a lot of amenities, and a lot of beaches. But you're starting to stretch in some of those areas that drive to the beach up to like 25, 35, 40, 45 minutes, maybe longer, depending on what pocket you're in and traffic, all that kind of stuff, which is another thing we'll come to in a second, the traffic. But the price point in Venice, you could, a similar sized home, it's not always an apples to apples comparison. So, but just to give you like a ballpark idea, because it's going to depend on like, is it new construction? Is it old? What's included with the home, materials, all that kind of stuff. But to give you a ballpark idea, I would say on average, you can expect to pay anywhere from 50 to maybe 300K less. Obviously that 300K is when we're talking like a bigger home, bigger price point. So there's more of that change in the price point, just because it's a higher price point to begin with. But like when you're talking like, let's say something in Venice that would be like $350,000. Similar size home in Sarasota, you're probably gonna be paying about 400, maybe 450,000. There's a chance it might be a little bit older, need a little bit more work, a little bit more dated. Now, that's because Sarasota is a bigger city and you're gonna get access to more things. So let's talk about like how Sarasota is different and how it's bigger. So First of all, Sarasota being bigger, you're gonna get just anything you could want shopping and restaurant wise, they're gonna have for you. There's just more diverse cuisine as far as restaurants go, more options. Not that there isn't anything, you know, as far as diverse cuisine goes in Venice, there is, but there's just going to be multiple of each, and certain ones you're just not gonna get in Venice. You're also talking about just about any store you could want. You got your Sam's Clubs, your Costco's, you got Dick's Sporting, like everything. Everything that you want between the UTC Mall area, the UTC Shopping Center area, and then just sprinkled throughout Sarasota you've got. Plus, you've got multiple downtowns to pick from. So like Venice, we got downtown Venice. That's pretty much it. Some people consider Welland Park Venice, even though it's technically a Northport built community, it does have Venice addresses. So if you want to include that, sure, we'll throw that in there. But like Sarasota, you got downtown Sarasota. You got St. Armand Circle. You got Siesta Key Village. You've got Lakewood Ranch. They're downtown. You've got Waterside. So there's just so much to pick from. And then like the Gulfgate Estates area has kind of like somewhat of a downtown feeling area. And in some parts, the UTC Shopping Center area feels almost like a downtown. So you put all that together and you're just talking about tons of shopping, tons of amenities, tons of different places to go hang out. Now, another way that they're both very, very different is the beaches. So when you're talking about Siesta Key Beach, you're talking about this huge swath of sand that's just massive. I mean, and the parking lot is tremendous as well, just absolutely huge. But even that big parking lot will get full, especially during the spring break and winter months, because there's so many people coming down here for vacation or snowbirds, plus the year-round residents, and you put all that together and you get a lot of people filling that parking lot up. And it's like one of the top-rated beaches in the United States. Some years it's the number one, some years it's not. A lot of years it's one of the top beaches in the world. So you're getting a much different feel there with just the size of it, number one, but number two, the sand. It's like powdered sugar, super fine grains, like literally like powdered sugar in both color and texture, and a very gradual drop off going into the beach. And you got all those sorts of things going for it, right? But like I said, it gets very packed with the parking lot and the beach. Now it's a big beach, so there's plenty of room. You can find a spot, but everyone's trying to get that spot right by the water. And so people start clustering together and you start getting 2, 3, 4, 5 people out from the beach with their little campsite or umbrella site or whatever you want to call it. But you got a little bit more of that going on. Venice, you will get, you know, some more people packing in on the beaches, especially during spring break and the winter months for the most part. But that being said, it doesn't feel quite as crazy. And you're not getting everyone at one single beach because you got multiple different beaches throughout Venice. You got Venice Beach, which is kind of like the main beach. Casperson Beach, which is like the secret main beach. I feel like just as many people are going to that one now as Venice Beach, but that one's got some big rocks there. It's really good for finding shark's teeth and seashells. It's known as the shark tooth capital of the world. That's one thing that's also very different about our beaches. There's lots of shark's teeth and seashells on them. So it's not like that fine sand, and the sand is a little bit coarser. In fact, on Casperson Beach, there's some pockets where it's a little bit more of almost blackish sand. It's like a dark gray. But then on top of that, you've got the Brohard Paw Park, which is basically a dog beach where you can have dog off of leash, which is really, really cool. You can't do that on a lot of Florida's beaches. And then we got Sharky's on the Pier, which is like a tiki restaurant and bar. And fishing pier is obviously there. You can fish there without a license. And then at the base of that, there's another beach. So all those are different from each other within Venice itself, but also very different from Siesta Key Beach. And then the other thing that's different is, like I said before, Sarasota, you got kind of a gradual drop off. A lot of Venice beaches, it's kind of a quick drop off and all of a sudden you're like knee or waist height in the water. And then from there, it kind of becomes, you know, more gradual and stays about that level as you go out for a ways. So, you know, there's some pretty big difference as far as the beaches go. Now let's talk about the traffic and the hustle and bustle a little bit. So Sarasota, definitely like I-75, during rush hours and during just a lot of the parts of the day, especially during the winter and especially the spring break months, it feels like a little bit like a big city now. Absolutely, not gonna deny that. Parts of Tamiami Trail during rush hour, especially again during the winter months and spring break, feels like a big city. Some pretty big backups at times. Now, winter months, Sarasota, busy-ish, but tolerable. Not too bad, honestly, in my opinion. Now, everything's always relative, right? Depends on where you're coming from and where you're moving to in Sarasota too, and where you're going on a day-to-day basis. Venice, winter months, 75 can get kind of congested in spots, especially during rush hours and spring break, but not insane. Actually, here's some traffic right here on Tamiami Trail. Going right by Joey D's over there, which has some really good Chicago style pizza. They actually have a couple of them throughout this area. There's one or two, I want to say, in Sarasota. Really like their Chicago style pizza. But yeah, Venice is lighter overall, which again is one of the reasons a lot of people have started to choose it over Sarasota. It's just a little bit, you know, we've been seeing more and more comments from people saying, you know, I visited Inglewood, I checked out Northport, I checked out Venice, and I checked out Sarasota. And I like Venice the best because it's Goldilocks. It's got enough to do, you got beaches, it's sort of busy, but it's not overwhelming. And you're still getting lots of stuff to do, and it's a better price point, you know? So it's kind of like a combination of all those things, and then the traffic being a little bit more manageable. Now, again, it can get busier during the rush hours, especially in winter and spring break months, and like when school's getting out, and like, I'd say from like 7-ish to like 9 a.m., it can get a little nuts. But overall, it's not terrible. I mean, some people might say it is. It just depends on where you're coming from. Like this, if you're not used to 3 lanes of traffic and 45 miles an hour, it might feel a little crazy. If you're coming from like a small town where everything's 1 lane or maybe 2 lanes and 35 miles an hour, yeah, it's gonna feel like a little bit of a culture shock or a shock for your driving abilities. But you'll adapt, trust me on that, because that's where I'm coming from, that kind of driving. And after being in Florida about 2 years, you get used to it. So all that combined is kind of the reason you're starting to see a lot of people say, hey, you know what? I like Venice over Sarasota because it's better price point, a little less congested, a little less crazy, a little less hectic. You're starting to get a lot more new stores and shopping and things like that coming to the area with Welland Park, and the North Venice area starting to expand, the brand new hospital in the North Venice area. And then it's a lower price point. But I think one of the biggest things to consider with all this is you're not giving up access to Sarasota. You're still, you know, talking, depending on what end of the city you're on, you could be talking about a 10-15 minute drive up to maybe 30 to 35, maybe 40 minutes with really bad traffic. So it's not like it's impossible to still get access to Sarasota and all the things that you might want out of it, and maybe save a bunch of money or just get that quieter lifestyle that you want, but still have city feels. Or maybe if you're in the right pocket of Venice, like if you're in South Venice or Venice Gardens, get more of a, you know, like a sort of country-ish or suburban feel. There's definitely plenty of suburban feels throughout all of Venice. And with the rise of some of these new communities coming in that North Venice area, you can like really shortcut that access to Sarasota and still get your access to some of the best things in Venice, like beach access. You're talking about a 10 to 15 minute drive to Nokomis Beach, about a 10 to 15 minute drive to downtown Venice, our historic downtown that is gorgeous. I mean, I think that's a really exciting option right now, one we've been bullish on the channel for quite a while, just because it's so unique and just combines the best of both worlds, in my opinion. A lot of new construction opportunities there as well. But if you can't decide between the two, here's a video with more about Sarasota. Here's one with more about Venice. Again, if you're looking to buy or sell a home in either of these areas or anywhere down to Inglewood, get a hold of our team at 941-221-1897. We've helped a lot of people avoid mistakes with not being in the right area for them, answering a lot of questions that are hard to find online, and a whole lot more. And we definitely like to help you shortcut that process and avoid moving to the wrong area as well. Thanks for watching, and live breezy.